Hey there, my friends, it's Brad, the Bearded Piper, and I hope you all are having a great day. It is a cold, rainy day here in southwestern Pennsylvania, and I'm out in the garage. It's so cold here in May that I'm actually in a heavy jacket, a winter cap, and I got the heaters going. It's in the low 40s, and the dampness in the air makes it feel colder than what it really is. So I am enjoying a bowl of salty dogs, a blend that Uncle Willie led me towards. It is a Virginia Perique with a rum topping, so it's a navy plug. And it is in my Glen Tinsky Naked Tinsky. Love this pipe. I love the shape, this print. And Glen Tinsky makes a fantastic pipe. I was fortunate when he first posted on Instagram that he was making these pipes. The very first batch that he posted, I got the prints out of that batch. I just absolutely, I loved the shape of it. And it's coloring up really nice. It was a natural briar. So it was light and it's really coloring up very nice. And I go to this pipe at least a couple times a week. I mean, I've got a lot of pipes, and I mean a lot of pipes, but this is one that I go to a couple times a week because I really, really like this pipe. So anyway, this is going to be a BSing with Brad episode. And as you could tell from, well, let me say this. Last night we were on our way home from a dog class, and my wife was driving, and I was looking at my YouTube studio, and I realized it's been like 9 days since I posted my last video. Today makes 10. And I said to my wife, I said, I can't believe it's been so long. I said, she's like, well, you've been really busy. And I'm like, yeah, I have, but I need to be able to, I love making these videos. I need to figure out a way to make them. I may not be able to make them as often, but I still need to be able to make them. So you can tell by the title of the video that I got a job, and I am really, really, really excited about this job. So let me give you a little history of Brad the Bearded Piper. My first job was pumping gas, and then I worked at McDonald's. But when I was 18 years old, I started in the sales world, and I sold shoes for Tom McCann at a local mall. And and I've heard all the Al Bundy jokes, all of them. So if you want to leave an Al Bundy joke down below, you won't hurt my feelings, and I will probably laugh at it pretty good. But then right out of college, I did spend a little bit of time working for a bank, and then at the ripe old age of 23 years old, I started in my first outside sales position, and I have been doing it pretty much ever since. And then the pandemic hit in 2020, and I was one of the unfortunate folks that was a victim of the pandemic, and I lost my job because I wasn't an essential employee. So I decided at that point I was going to make myself essential, and we already owned a cargo van, so I started my own business as a courier/expedited deliverer. Business was going great, so much to the point that I upgraded my van. Everything was going fantastic. And then in about June of 2022, the transportation market and what I was doing, the niche that I was feeling, really took a downturn. Fuel prices were going up, all maintenance costs, all costs were going up, and rates were coming down. It got to the point where I was going to have to seriously go over the road, be gone for a week or two at a time to actually make less money than I was before June of last year. And that's not really what I want to do. It's not really what my wife wants me to do. It's not really what we have plans for our life. So I decided at the beginning of this year, after I had my knee operated on, that I was going to start looking for a job. I didn't want to get a job at the beginning of the year and then say, hey, I have to have knee surgery and I'm going to be off a week, the second week into my employment. So I sent out a bunch of resumes, a whole bunch of resumes. I shouldn't say a whole bunch. I sent out a bunch of resumes, but I was very, very selective where my resumes went. We weren't at the point where I just had to get a job. I was still able to look at companies and say, okay, I would really like to work for them, to be able to research them, find out what they do before I sent a resume. And one of the things that I have found during this whole process is, number one, even with my business, I have a lot of sales. I had to sell myself. I had to sell my business every day. But even with that, I had about 27 years of outside sales experience. So number one, that kind of eliminates you from entry-level positions. A lot of folks won't hire you because of your experience, because they think that you're going to demand a higher salary. And to some extent that is true. But that doesn't mean that some of us, like me, aren't willing to come in for the high level of an entry level, because there's commission involved, and we know that we'll be successful, and that will just bump up, your performance will get you to where you need to be. So I sent out resumes to select companies, and at the beginning of March, I sent out a resume for 3 different positions within this same company, and I'm not going to mention the name of the company. And that was at the beginning of March, and I didn't hear anything from them. And I thought, you know what, they expired, the jobs expired on Indeed. And I thought, well, a lot of times companies are required by their internal policies to post jobs on the outside market. People that work there can apply for those positions, they can bid for them, or however you want to call it. And they may say, okay, well, John, who works as a technician, is going to take this outside sales position, but we still need to post it. So then you have folks apply for the position, they look at the resumes, and unless they're really, really much better than John, they'll bring John into the position. So the top 3 companies that I had, I got a phone call in April, and it was really strange. I was texting a buddy of mine. He asked me how things were going. I said that this job search is very frustrating. Hit send, set my phone down, and it rang. Literally as soon as the phone hit the desk. And I wasn't going to answer it because with my business, my commercial insurance was coming due, and I was getting a ton of phone calls from folks wanting to quote me new commercial insurance. But I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and answer this one. And I'm glad I did, because it was that company that I applied for at the beginning of March. Now we're talking, 5 weeks, 6 weeks later. And it was their recruiter. Now they have internal recruiters within this company. And he interviewed me for like a half an hour, and he wanted to move me on to the next step. And out of the 3 positions, he was interested in me in the position that I really, really wanted. There were 3, like one I really, really wanted, and the other 2, I'm like, okay, I would be happy with that, but I really, really would rather this one. So the following week, I went in for an interview with 3 different managers. It was one interview with 3 different managers. They all asked me questions, as we went. It was a great interview. Halfway through the interview, they had said that they said, please don't take this as anything more than a compliment, but we have you scheduled for an hour, but I don't need to hear any more. We don't need to hear any more. We'd like to move you on to the next step, which was pretty exciting. And then I had an opportunity to ask questions, and I kind of interviewed them because, again, with 27 years experience, my goal with every company that I've ever worked for is to work there the rest of my career until I retire. And then I've always been a victim of circumstance. So I interviewed them asking these questions because this is what I want. I want a company that I know is going to support me, give me the tools to succeed, and there's the longevity. And that is exactly what this company offers. So the following week, I went in for a caliper assessment test. And if you aren't familiar with these caliper assessment tests, they are a psychological and a cognitive ability test. So there are 58 questions where they give you 4 things, and they'll say, I like to do things in new and innovative ways. I like to be around people. I'm a good team member, and it's usually something negative, like I get stressed out at deadline times or something like that. So you had to pick which one is the most like you and which one is the least like you. And even though sometimes all 4 traits were very positive and they all were, I have all 4 of those traits, I still had to pick which one was the most like me and which one was the least like me. And then there were, I don't remember how many questions where they would give you a statement. I'd rather be out with my friends on a Friday night than sitting at home and reading a book. And you had to say strongly agree, strongly disagree, or various phases in between. And then there were 11 questions for cognitive ability, and they were things like they gave you numbers, and I'll give you a simple example. It was 3, 5, 7, 9, and then you had to pick what's the next number was, and in that situation they're going in order of odd numbers. But some of them were really tough. Like one of them was a series of numbers where the first number, if you take that number and you square it and add it to it, it made the next number. And then if you square that number and subtract it from it, it made the next number. And then if you squared the next number and added it to it, it made the next number. So it went squared, added, squared, subtracted, squared, added, squared, subtracted. But you had to be able to figure all of this out. And then they gave you multiple choice to pick out which number it was. So if you figured it out wrong and it wasn't one of the multiple choices, then you could keep going. And there was no time limit to it. And then there were other questions within the cognitive ability now were just pictures, and it would be shapes, and you would have to say, okay, there are two different shapes, and it would say this shape is to this shape as this shape is to blank, and then you'd have to pick out which one it was. And you had to be able to discern what the difference is between the shapes are, what the pattern was of change between the first one and the second one. And there were things thrown in there. Sometimes they would throw a thing in there that it changed, but it really meant nothing to the pattern. It was just a distractor. So there were a bunch of those. And then there was another where there were 9 different pictures of shapes, and then there would be a question mark, and you'd have to pick out which shape went in there. And they were tough. I'm not going to lie. They were tough questions. Now, they told me that they don't use this assessment test to actually make decisions, but it gives them a good idea if you are a good fit for the company, to make sure you're not argumentative or that you do possess the skills for outside sales. So even though they said they don't really use it to make decisions, I think it's still a big part of it. If you come out and say, this guy's really suited for a desk job, you don't want to put him in a car and have him in front of customers. So after that, the following week, I had another interview, and this one was online with the district sales manager and the regional sales manager. And then a couple days later, they offered me the job. And I got phone calls. They actually called and checked my references, which, you don't really hear of that. So they really vet their employees because they want you to be there for the long haul, which is great because that's what I want too. So they offered me the job last Friday. They told me to think about the offer letter over the weekend, and everything was okay. There was some changes that I wanted to make to it, and they accepted them. I mean, there weren't major changes, but there were some changes I wanted, and they accepted it. It wasn't, like I said, anything crazy. And I accepted my offer on Monday, and then on Monday afternoon, late Monday afternoon, I got a link to do a background check. And the background check, like I said, it was late in the afternoon. It was after around 5 o'clock, and they asked questions that I didn't know for my own background check. They wanted to know the month and year that you started and you finished. You started your college career and you finished your college career. So I knew that I started in 1991 and finished in 1994. I knew I finished in December of 94, but I didn't know if I started in August or if I started in September of 94. I wasn't sure which one. So I had to get a hold of the registrar at where I got my bachelor's degree and where I got my master's degree to get those dates. So that pushed it off until Tuesday, and then by the time we got everything worked out, I had to fill out my stuff yesterday, and then I got my report back today, actually. They did a pretty extensive background check. They checked to make sure that you say who you are, that your social security number is real, that you really do have your diplomas. That's what they're really checking for, to make sure that you really do have your diplomas. I guess for a long time, people were embellishing their resumes, and they are trying to avoid that. They don't want somebody to come work for them that says they have a degree where they actually don't. They check your motor vehicle reports. They check to make sure you're not on the offenders list and all of these other things. So, and of course I cleared all of that. Now I'm waiting to find out. I have to go in for a drug test and for I think a physical. It said a physical, but I'm not 100% certain. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go in for a physical as well. And then after that's done, we should be clear to go. So the original goal was for me to start on the 8th, which would be next Monday, but it's Wednesday. I don't think that's going to happen because I still haven't gotten the orders to go take the drug test and the physical. They're still getting that set up. So hopefully the 15th, but my manager did say that they like to start people at the beginning of a pay cycle, which would not be until the 22nd. So I'm really eager and really excited to get started, and I'm just over the moon. I can't even begin to tell you that I'm just so excited to go work for this company. And again, back in outside sales, where it's who I am. It's what I've done my entire career. So really, really excited. One of the funny things, though, if you're still watching at this point, because I mean, we're almost 16 minutes into this video, one of the funny things that was mentioned was that they're really excited to have me because they have a really young team out of the branch that I'm going to be working at. And that I have been doing this a long time, so I've seen a lot of things. I've accomplished a lot of things, and that I'm going to be a welcomed addition to the young guys because I bring in so much experience. And it made me chuckle because when did I become the veteran? You know, like that, like it just snuck up. Like all of a sudden, you're the veteran salesperson. You're the veteran at work. You're the guy with the experience. So I'm pretty excited about that too. So hopefully, I'll be able to bring a positive impact to the company, and you know, be able to work the next 20 years. And enjoy myself in the sales world. And I really never worked for a company that I haven't enjoyed. You know, there's things in every job that you're like, you know, like, but I've enjoyed pretty much everything. And it's all a matter of perspective for me. Is, you know, no matter what it is, whether it's paperwork or planning or forecasting or whatever, it's a necessary evil. And you know, you just do them. You're like, hey, I got to get this done, so you get it done. So, but anyway, I'm starting to ramble. So that's it. I'm really excited. I finally, not only did I get a job, I got a job that I'm really excited about. And I think I'm going to excel at, and it's a good company. And yeah, I'm super excited. I think I may have said that a couple times. So until we talk again, friends, remember, life is good, but it is better with a pipe.